War has a peculiar way of revealing both the best and worst aspects of humanity. It's a time when individuals can display incredible selflessness, yet others may fall prey to the overwhelming tide of emotions, losing themselves in the chaos. In this video, I will share with you my observations of how my favorite politicians and journalists slowly started losing their minds. 2 years before the conflict in Ukraine, I found Anatoly Shariy, a Ukrainian journalist. What immediately drew me in was his unwavering commitment to truth. Regardless of one's patriotism, Shariy emphasized the importance of facing reality. His love for Ukraine is palpable, evident in his relentless pursuit of justice. Slowly, I started to learn more and more about him. Apparently, he is a well-known journalist in Ukraine. I found him at the moment when he was opening his political party in Ukraine. He fearlessly exposed the corruption of past presidents like Yanukovych and Poroshenko. Through his YouTube channel, Shariy presented viewers with documented proof, street footage, and interviews, serving as a beacon of transparency in a dark political landscape. As a Ukrainian patriot, he was saddened by the situation in the country, but he never lost hope in making it better. Alongside his wife Olga, both of them wielded their platforms to advocate for Ukraine's advancement, striving to align their nation with European standards. They verified information before showing it. Since they used many different resources from Ukraine, the West, and Russia, they had the capability to show different points of view on the events. This power is important in the political world because if you don't know what is happening on the board, you don't control the situation. Inadvertently, Anatoly and Olga created an ideology, Shariism, blending Western liberalism with Slavic conservatism. You can have the right to vote for any party you want. You can support or be a part of LGBTQ and nothing will happen to you. But the core of the country would be built around classic family concepts. You have the right to talk and study in any language you want at school. You can watch any mass media you want. Central to Shariism was the furious opposition to fascism, a position formulated through relentless criticism and condemnation of fascist elements within Ukraine. Sharists were especially against the Ukrainian head of fascism, Bandera, mocking this figure alongside his followers. Anatoly and Olga would call themselves anti-Bandera. During Ukraine's last elections, Shariy initially supported Zelensky, only to pivot upon recognizing the president's true nature. He exposed Zelensky's corruption and lies the same way he had done with previous leaders. Simultaneously, his party won in different municipalities. Then they worked hard, demonstrating improvements where they won. Shariy's stance towards Russia echoed a desire for friendship rooted in mutual respect and equality. His message was clear. Genuine friendship requires acknowledgement and respect for each other's interests. In essence, Anatoly and Olga Shariy embodied a commitment to truth, transparency, and progress. Through their unwavering dedication, they have not only shaped the discourse, but also inspired their supporters to strive for a better future, regardless of the nationality of their supporters. Everything changed when the war began. I first learned about it from him. He started translating online as soon as the war broke out, broadcasting news on YouTube 24/7 and offering guidance to those fleeing the conflict. I was with him, along with many others of his followers. As it became clear that Russia's plans were failing and the war would soon end by March, Anatoly and Olga's anger towards Russia began to evolve. Their comments on the events took a strange turn. Then Ukraine launched 2 successful counteroffensives, one near Kharkov and another in Kherson. That's when Olga's behavior began to shift. Regardless of the news from Russia, whether good or bad, Olga would find something to laugh about. Even neutral news became fodder for her mockery. Russia providing aid to Africa? Hilarious. Holding diplomatic meetings? Weakness, according to Olga. The Russian government commenting on global affairs? A joke because Russia had lost the war. Her analytical approach underwent a similar transformation. Initially, she questioned Western sources regarding the battlefield situation. But now, any positive news for Ukraine was unquestionably accepted as truth, even if the same sources were doubted just months prior. Olga's famous Telegram post before the summer Ukrainian counteroffensive perfectly encapsulated her anger and anticipation for the downfall of the Russian forces, a sentiment shared by Anatoly. Meanwhile, Anatoly, her husband, was also losing his grip on reality. He had managed to keep his mockery somewhat restrained until Olga's post about the counteroffensive. Once he endorsed her sentiments, his descent into madness accelerated. Like his wife, he found humor in every bit of news from Russia, regardless of its content. He contradicted his own previous statements, sharing unchecked information that often turned out to be false within hours. Just weeks before the anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive, he was openly mocking Russia, even going as far as suggesting ways for the Russian government to apologize to Ukrainians. When the city of Bakhmut fell, one day before it, he wrote, "Tomorrow we will hear bad news." The next day, Bakhmut fell, and on another day, he laughed about it, saying, "The Russian army will lose Bakhmut within a few weeks. We won't even start to miss it." 9 months have passed, and the Russian army is still there. Anatoly doesn't like to talk about it anymore. Then came the most famous Ukrainian summer counteroffensive. Anatoly's post during this time revealed a roller coaster of emotions. Hope, followed by slow disappointment and ultimately frustration as it became clear that the counteroffensive had failed. Immediately, he turned his criticism towards Zelensky for the outcome, never uttering a negative word about General Zaluzhny. In fact, amidst the conflict between Zelensky and Zaluzhny, Anatoly supports the general over the president. The issue with Zaluzhny lies in his cabinet's display of a portrait of Bandera, a Ukrainian fascist figure. This is the same Bandera whom Anatoly and Olga fought against before the war and whose supporters were once targets of mockery from the Shariy family. Despite their previous opposition to fascism, Anatoly and Olga now turn a blind eye to Zaluzhny's admiration for Bandera, evident in his office decor and official support. Let's pause and reflect on this. We once had journalists who idolized democracy, liberalism with a conservative foundation, and the rights of national minorities. They carefully checked the facts before showing information and were anti-fascists, dedicating their careers to improving Ukraine and eradicating fascist elements. But the onset of war has transformed them completely. It's understandable that emotions run high during times of conflict and their anger towards Russia is justifiable. Many Russian followers who sympathized with them understood them and refrained from criticism. However, none of this excuses their abandonment, dare I say betrayal, of their own principles and values that they spent a lifetime promoting. I've witnessed politicians betray their parties and even their countries. I've seen individuals succumb to bribery and compromise their integrity. I've watched propagandists flip-flop within a month. But never have I seen individuals with such high ideals, whom I idolized and put on the same level as Aristotle, fall so badly to the point where there's little distinction between them and a propagandist who changes his stance overnight. Whenever I think about this, I'm left questioning myself. Can I fall the same way? Only time will tell.